Alright everybody, welcome back to Cedar Creek RC. John here. Week 2 of the C1 comp chassis from Mofo RC. I already had some links. We're just doing C10 links. It's pretty basic. Chassis already done. Had issues with audio. That was in the last video. We do have, I think we have pretty much everything to do a whole build. I'm not real sure. We might need well, we don't have everything. Have motors. I bought a little extra part. I bought a transmission. All this stuff I found on sale. I bought gearing because, from my understanding, I did buy the Mofo axles because they were super cheap on clearance. From my understanding, these are underdriven by like 50% from the factory or from Mofo. So we're going to open those up and change out the gears in the front. I don't know what ratio. I think they're like 50% underdriven from the front. And we'll need to open them up as well and get the and grease everything on them. Sorry, bad video angle. But I'm not 100% sure yet what ratio I want to put up front. I think I have a 33% and I don't remember what the other one is. But the good thing about it is we can get it, we'll grease everything once we get into it. But I'm going to debate for a minute and do some research and figure out exactly which ones I want to put in it. And give me just a few minutes and we will get this started. All right, we're back. I also forgot to mention on this, when the X15 axles use some TRX 4M parts, like the C-hubs and the steering knuckles. So I'm going to change out the steering knuckles for brass to give us a little more weight up front. And I think that's okay for class 1. I'm not sure on all the rules, and I forgot I had this INJORA servo, so that's going to save us some money too. It was just sitting in my parts. I knew I have several servos, but this will save us some money, and the axles and everything come with a servo mount, so that's pretty nice. I'm not sure. I think this should just screw in, so we don't have to use the INJORA servo mount. I think I'm going to go with 23% overdrive on the front, and we'll see how that works. From the looks of it, it's not going to be very hard to change. I've also noticed it comes with a 4mm I don't know, I guess wheel nut, but it also in the package has some nylon nuts, and we're going to go with the nylon nuts just so we don't lose these smaller ones. I really do need to get a better camera set up, but we're going to go ahead and pop all this brass that's on there. It's not much off the front. and just tear this axle down real quick. And Mofo says to make sure you grease everything when you first get it. So we're going to do that as well. And on these, you have to use a 1.5 millimeter hex, I think. No. No, it's still a smaller hex on this, but we'll keep all these parts. If we ever do a TRX4M build, we can always use the leftover parts from this build. On a TRX4M, so that's kind of nice about this. We're just going to transfer all of our bearings. We'll just transfer all of our bearings over. I'm hoping this works. In theory, it should work out perfect. But sometimes you have a good theory and it doesn't always work out. Probably need an overhead view. I'm gonna have to work on that. I have a setup, but I'm not real comfortable with it. I need to get comfortable with it. And just kind of suck it up a little bit. All right, the inside parts. This is taking a 1.5 millimeter. And again, on these are nylon axles, so you don't need any Loctite, but you also don't want to over tighten anything. Trying to keep everything together because they do have some little, I want to call them stock, but they're not really stock. The little screws are like they have a little cap on them, has a little spacer already built into it, so we don't want to lose those because that's what goes with these C-knuckles and brass hubs specifically for this. But this, so far it's pretty simple. Oh, our grub screw just fell out. Grub screw? But yeah, these have zero grease in them. So I'm pretty sure, I'm not counting teeth, but yeah, we're definitely going with, we're going to go with 23%. That's, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but these have they have a washer, and always put your washer when you're doing scx24 axles. If your gears don't come with them, you can just pull them off your stock stock gears and transfer them over. That's where my fat fingers kind of get in the way. So far, this is a pretty easy, and I use a syringe and to get my grease in. And it doesn't get nowhere near as messy. I forgot to put that in. What's that? And we'll fix that though. That's not that big a deal. That's, I mean, you're basically putting together TRX4M scx24 mashup. But again, you don't need any kind of, because you're just going plastic to plastic. So you don't, make sure you don't use any Loctite, because that will ruin your plastic. And we want a little weight up front. Hopefully we can get a good split adding these. I probably should have weighed them before, but I didn't. Well, we're going to open up the back and grease it as well. Again, another little trick I've learned is to put just a little bit of your Loctite on the top. Also helps with making a mess. I've lost my scissors. I'm going to have to use some cheap scissors. But cheap scissors work too. Kind of worried about the steering link. I don't know how well that's going to work. I'm really not a fan of these. Like, I like these little brass bushings, but a lot of times when they send this stuff, they don't send any extras, and I might have one missing already. I see 3. I don't have, there's the 4th one. All right. Made me a little nervous there. I am just putting a little dab of Loctite on these. And use the Loctite that is removable. Do not use the red Loctite. I just use low strength. I'll show you what I use. I'll try to find it again and put a link in the description of what I use. And it seems to work fairly well on the smaller stuff. But we're just going to snug it up because you don't want a lot of resistance, so you don't want to put a lot of strain on your servo. Like, you still want them to spin pretty freely. But I like these axles so far, just for the fact that you can use TRX4M stuff on them. They're a little beefier than the scx24, so that's a good thing. And put my steering knuckles on backwards. So make sure your steering knuckles are facing the front. That was really dumb. All right, let me get this fixed. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. We got everything swapped, or getting everything swapped over. This seems, this is, if you mess with any kind of TRX 4M, the only thing that's really different is these ball ends that they put in here are specific to Mofo RC stuff. So we're going to go ahead and put a little dab of Loctite on this as well. Just because we're going into brass. But also when you're going into brass and you have steel or aluminum, if you have any kind of resistance, stop and assess the situation, because you could be getting into a cross-threading situation. And if you do that, just back out and start over, because you don't want to cross thread into this brass, because that will give you a bigger headache than what you want. Then you're talking about either re-drilling something and re-tapping it, and that's not the most fun. Especially some of the smaller scale stuff, trying to find the right size drill and tap can be challenging. I found a set on AliExpress and I've used it a couple times, but not a ton. Yeah, everything from the TRX 4M, that all bolted up really well. These chassis also come with a one of the Mofo servo mounts. And I think these are proprietary as well. And I'm not sure yet as to what position I want to run my servo in. I'm just going to kind of mock this up a little bit. Again, make sure you don't over tighten anything. I think we're going to go with the forwardmost mounting position. Not sure. I'll get it all situated and then we'll go over it when I get back. All right, so I got the front axle built. It's quite a bit heavier. Of course, it has a servo on it. And I decided to mount the servo a little bit further back. If it doesn't work out the way we want it, we can always move it forward. It's not that serious, but I just used the back two mounting holes because I wanted my screw for my servo horn and my steering link to be in the front. So if I have to replace it, it's easier to get to. I don't have to take the whole servo apart or servo mount apart, servo off. But we're gonna do the rear axle and just throw some grease in it. We're not changing any links or any gears or anything. we're just leaving it in, but Mofo does tell you to grease your axles. And if the manufacturer is telling you to grease the axles, because this has 0 grease in it. I'm just squeezing some down on the inside. I don't know how much is too much. You don't want a ton in there, but you want enough to make sure everything's getting the amount of grease it's supposed to get to. That's pretty much on the back axle. It's just 4 screws. Throw your grease in there and tighten everything back up. And when I'm putting screws and stuff back in the nylon, I don't have a death grip on my screwdriver. I'm just barely holding it, so if it does get some resistance, it spins. Because you definitely don't want to over tighten and strip everything out. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that on this build, especially with 3D printed parts, but as soon as it spins, stop it and let it go. That's pretty much it for the axles, guys. I'm going to work on a few little things on it. I might get some. I'm going to try to get the motor mounted up. I had a different motor in it. I didn't like the mesh on it. I didn't like the way everything was fitting together. And I got this little TorqueBeastX from Mofo, and I'm hoping it bolts up a little better to the mount. But next video, we'll do a little more assembly. I appreciate everybody watching. Hit the like, subscribe, share. Leave me a comment with any questions. Still debating on what body I want to use on this build. I'm thinking really going with the base camp. I do have a Wrangler body, and we can always change things out as well. So thanks everybody for watching. Again, please like, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification bell. But everybody stay safe and have a great day.